Welcome to the Culture Shock podcast on the Dynasty DNA podcasting network, where Big Culture Bob breaks down the 5 things that stood out this week in the NFL, the good, the bad, and the ugly of NFL and Dynasty Fantasy Football topics every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And here is your Culture Shock host, TJ Blake.
Welcome back, DNA Strand crew, to the newest episode of the Culture Shock here on the Dynasty DNA podcasting network. I'm your host, TJ Blake. You can follow me over on X at FFTJBlakeDNA. As always, for his show, The Culture Shock, we're joined by the one they call Big Culture Bob Helfert. You can follow him over on X at Big E Fat Bob. Bob, these ADP shows have been a hit. Today, it's going to be 5 quarterbacks that were outproduced ADP. You ready to provide some Dynasty knowledge for everyone today? What do we got? We got a good list today, Bob? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's all in secret to you because, we didn't communicate very well beforehand for at least this show. Going on vacation next week, got to record early, but, a little behind the scenes action. I don't think my wife's going to let me do 4 hours worth of recording on vacation, so I'll take it and try and get the deep dive in. So we'll record this one early.
Just so the fans know, Big Culture hates missing shows. He'll do that. You people got him up late tonight. I'm telling you right now, he is bought in. He's ready to go, but this is going to be a good one, Bob. I'm excited to see your list. As you said, usually we talk a little bit pre-show or beforehand, but I'm going to let you surprise me as you're surprising the audience. So we have 5 quarterbacks that are going to outproduce ADP in 2026. Go ahead and throw that first name out there for us.
So I don't know that most of these are going to be too much of a surprise if you listen to me talk at all. However, this one might be the most surprising one, and it's Jordan Love. We just talked about the divisions on the deep dive just a little bit ago, and I talked about how I think Jordan Love can end up as a low-end QB1 for sure, if not, mid QB1. Right now he's at QB 16 as far as ADP goes, and it's got him. And I don't know, this is our league of record, which is a 10-team. 2 QB, which is kind of crazy, but this has the ADP being like 139, which, it's got to be skewed or whatever for a bunch of 1 quarterback leagues because there's no way he's going that far down in Superflex, but whatever. Even at QB 16, let's just stick with QB 16. I think that he outperforms that pretty handedly. Like we talked about on the show, I think that the subtraction of chaos or whatever in the wide receiver room should help him develop a rapport with some of the other guys. Now, don't get me wrong, Christian Watson and Jayden Reed have been often injured. Matthew Golden is obviously still green, for a Green Bay Packer, but he's still young, you know what I mean? So, but everything I've heard says Tucker Kraft is going to be pretty close to ready for week 1. And if Tucker Kraft's ready week 1, then the rest of the team doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned because Kraft singles is dope. And I think that he's absolutely the straw that stirs this drink. And Jordan Love has rapport with him and rapport with Reed. I've talked about how I think Reed is probably the target that I would go for in this offense just because A, he's the cheapest, and B, I think he's, he seems to be the most solid player. Now, injuries are obviously part of that equation, but I think he's just the most solid. So I digress, but that's where I am. Jordan Love.
I love the shout out, Jordan Love, and that's no pun intended. You know how I feel about Jordan Love, Bob, and you look at it, right? Like, what are we looking for any player that's going to outperform ADP? A bit of a ceiling opportunity, right? Like, we've seen Jordan Love hit a ceiling before, right? That's one good sign. We've seen him as quarterback 5 when his year he took over as the full-time starter. And if it wasn't for injuries, he would have been a back-end quarterback 1 the last couple years, right? A little bit of an injury bug slowed him down. This team having injury problems overall. But you look at the ceiling potential. It's there. We've seen it. You also add the fact that this guy can run the football. Now, he isn't one of them people that's looking to run every time. But if there is lanes open, he will go and run. And then you throw in the fact that, yes, now you got addition by subtraction, I like to call it. You get rid of some of these guys like Dontavian Wicks. Like, I mean, hey, it's tough for any guy. You got a bunch of average to below average players. You don't have one dominant force. Try to get at least then 3 guys that you like. That's like you said, try to grow them and grow the quarterback. And you look at it overall, this division is tough, but you see the defenses in this division, where are they a little bit suspect on the back end, right? We know Chicago's had some trouble on the back end. We know that Detroit's had some trouble on the back end, as has Minnesota. So I think this all kind of lines up nicely for Jordan Love, Bob. Even if, like you said, you want to keep a level expectation of like, okay, where is a realistic number where he finishes? Okay, quarterback 8 to 12. If he's healthy, he's there. And as long as he does that, he's already outperformed ADP, but he could even do better than that. And I'm like you, I think the potential's there for that. And he is the guy, and I want to see what your thoughts are on this before we move on. Now, I talk about a lot of the builds I like to do with Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy and Jordan Love. I think with age, ceiling ability, I think out of all them quarterbacks, if I'm looking to add one and be a trade or in a startup, he's my number one target right now. Do you feel the same way, or is he up towards the top of the list anyway?
Yeah, we talked about it at the on the last on the deep dive or whatever, where I'm in a startup right now and I drafted Jordan Love in the 3rd round as my QB1. Obviously, we're getting ready to talk about players that I think will outperform ADP, and I've drafted a few of those guys. I'm generally a dynasty player that doesn't go for the running back or the running quarterback by necessity. I prefer that they stand in the pocket and throw the ball all over the yard. Picture Jared Goff, so on and so forth. But I think Jordan Love has that, and he has the ace in his back pocket of being able to run if he needed to. So that's just the type of player I like.
Mobile enough, right? That's the thing. Like, you don't want a complete statue. I get that, but like mobile enough, right? And that's the thing. You get one of these guys that are too mobile, you open yourself up to injuries. Longevity is always a question mark. But when you have the guys that are mobile enough, that is always nice to keep in your back pocket, as you said, Bob. And, you just look at it. I think there's a lot of stars aligning for Love. I think that it's a no-brainer on ADP outperformance. I'm like you. I think it's a great name to bring up because 16, I'm telling you right now, if he's there all 17 games, 8 to 12, I think it's a slam dunk. I really do, and I think you could maybe even get a little better than that. We'll see if he can really light it up. But all right, Big Culture, next quarterback up on the outperforming ADP list for 2026. Who are we pivoting to next?
Well, and again, if you've been listening to us at all, Tyler Shough was going to come up eventually, and he's at QB 20 right now. And I think that he just ends up being kind of where they've got Love. I think that in the 16 to, 18 range or whatever. And I mean, it might not be much more than that, but I think he's going to be better than QB 20. I just think adding Tyson, the offensive line actually looks pretty decent. They add Travis Etienne. They still got Kamara there, whether or not he's a sack of turds or not, is beyond us. But he, it's still 2 pass catching running backs or whatever on that team, and Travis Etienne is going to be able to take the pressure off. They have Juwan Johnson or whatever at tight end who's serviceable, and I still really like Oscar Delp. So I think that this team has improved their weaponry, and Shough just looked pretty good last year when he finally got the reins and was able to. I trust Kellen Moore. So I think that's where I'm at.
Right, and I think that's a big part of it with Tyler Shough, right? It isn't just so much even the weapons upgrades, like you said, Bob, and they are, tantalizing, adding ETN, getting Tyson the rookie in there. Delp's a guy that we believe in as a longer shot tight end. Juwan Johnson already wasn't a scrub. Chris Olave, if he's healthy, we can see what he's capable of, right? So, there is excitement about the weapons on this offense. So, that can lead you to Tyler Shough right away. But Kellen Moore is a big part of this to me, right? There are guys that just haven't panned out. Look at Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. There was hope that he was going to be this offensive mind, and it just kind of fell flat. But I think Kellen Moore is, just a step below your Ben Johnsons, your Kevin O'Connells, your Sean McVays. He's kind of knocking on that door I don't think he's quite there yet. He's still got a lot to prove. But you look what he did for the Eagles offense in a coordinating capacity, right? Like, he really helped that offense. And when he left, boy, it really took a downward tumble. So I really believe in the guy and his ability to coach. I think he's a good leader of men, ex-quarterback, so he knows how to develop and groom a guy like Shough, help him along. I look at Shough as a guy like he's kind of like one of those dynasty whirlwind type players. I don't know how long he'll be around, Bob, and I think that's a question I want to ask you. But enjoy the ride while you can, because I think for the value, he's going to be a really solid, serviceable guy. But he's been in a lot of college football games. We know that he's kind of had a history of injuries. Is he a guy that, I mean, you look at like Derek Carr, right? And I hate to compare Shough to Derek Carr because that's rough for anybody. But Derek Carr had a couple good seasons, right? I mean, very serviceable, solid fantasy outings, right? Andy Dalton, same way. I could see Shough being a player similarly to that. Now, we hope for the ceiling, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure, but if his career turned out like that, I wouldn't be shocked. So, I'm saying, buy in now, right? And, if it goes maybe a little bit south or you have a bad feeling about it, sell off as high as you can later, right? But another guy, big culture, that you talk about with the running upside that he can provide. I mean, he doesn't do it all the time, but it's a tool in the toolbox. But do you see what I'm saying? I don't know if he's one of them guys that I could stamp of approval of being around and being a dominant fantasy asset for years to come. Maybe just more of a solid, serviceable guy that when we buy on the lows and sell on the highs. Can you agree with that?
Well, I think this year's going to be the measuring stick for that, right?
Absolutely.
Because I think if they do what we kind of expect them to do, I think that they improve drastically this year. I think that they make the playoffs. And at that point, I don't see why he's not at least there for a second contract. And
right.
Again, remember, this is a team that has never, or I shouldn't say that, hasn't drafted a first-round quarterback since Archie Manning. So they've always just kind of had, the idea of not going the high-end guy. Now, of course, if they absolutely turn to dog water, then everything I'm saying here is wrong, right? Tyler Shough is A, not going to improve in ADP, B, he's not going to be very long for the league, and so on and so forth. But I just don't see it. I mean, he's a talented quarterback. He's just the biggest problem that he had in college was just being able to avoid breaking things. Most all of his injuries were broken bones, and you keep falling on your collarbone or whatever. You can't really help that. It's just the weakest bone or whatever in your body. And if you fall on it wrong, it's toast. But yeah, it's entirely possible that it could just go completely off the rails. I'm just going to bet that it's not. And I mean, I can understand that if, let's say he bolts all the way up to say quarterback 11 or whatever, and people are just absolutely sniffing the farts, and you can get somebody that you really like by only adding say a first. If you could get into Caleb Williams, Drake May, whatever, whoever your flavor is, if you could add one first to Tyler Shough and get to that position, then sure. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Don't that'd be crazy talk to not do that. But I'm not gonna, he got to QB 11. Now let's trade back for Geno Smith and 2 first or some crap, whatever. I'd rather not take those dice rolls. I'd rather just see if the kid's got it and hangs around the league for a long time. You took the words out of my mouth, Bob, because I think that's the way I wanted to get that out is I do think that you're correct because you know how I feel about Shough. I think he's going to outproduce ADP as well. But I'm like you. If I could get into one of those guys I like, if I could use him, because I just don't see him being that force forever. You know what I'm saying? He's going to have his time. Everyone talks about place and time. I could see Tyler Shough having his place and time from X to Y. You know what I'm saying? But, in between, that's great, but I don't know how long it's going to last. So if I could take him and, like you said, a pick and parlay it into a May or a Caleb Williams, I like that move. I do. And I could see 11 to 15 for Tyler Shough. We've talked about that a lot. Sneakily, Bob. This is a bad division as well. And the fact that you add Jordan Tyson or whatever to Chris Olave may be gone after this year. You know what I mean? I don't think that there's been a contract extension or even extension talks really between the two parties. So like that would have an effect. But if he does well, then they're probably just, most of us are going to be like, okay, well, whatever weapon they add is just going to improve, that position too. So I completely agree. Like I just kind of was scrolling through the list. There's a lot of these guys I think that are just going to age out of the top 15 or whatever, as far as ADP goes. Now, whether or not they perform really well or not is totally different. But you know how we are as managers, right? As soon as a QB turns 34 or 35, man, we're ready to, jettison them out the door. And hey, if they're our QB3, that's fine. But like, we don't want them for, to be counted on. So I just think that I think we're right on the money as far as like 11 to 15. Expectations are better, but not through the roof.
For sure. And I mean, if it is 11 to 15 for Tyler Shough, it's going to be a significant jump, and you're going to see people wanting to get aboard that train, right? And as Big Culture said, I'm not shipping them off for peanuts. If I have to, I'll hold them. But if I could get into a player I liked and someone I think that we could believe in super, super long term, as Bob mentioned, your Mays, your Caleb Williams, these younger guys that have a ton of upside, then yes, maybe I would go that route. But I think that's exactly how to approach it. If you can't get diddly squat for him, you keep him and hope he continues to develop and get better. And I think 11 to 15 is a good number. And we've talked about it a lot, Bob. Like Jackson Dart's got a little hype this year, right? Could you take Jackson Dart and get Tyler Shough plus, right? I think that's a very good, serviceable move from Dynasty perspective. But let's go over now to the third quarterback on the list, Big Culture. Who do you have next on the teeing off stage?
Well, I think that there's two guys on this list you're going to be less favorable of, and I think this is the least of the less favorable if I'm saying that completely correctly. But Sam Darnold. First off, there's really only 32 starting quarterbacks, so it's hard to find five that you're like, oh, they're going to outperform the ADP. But number one, he ends up being like QB, 13 or whatever last year. So all the way down at 23 seemed kind of ridiculous to me. And like, yes, I know Clint Kubiak left. That is, and I guarantee that's your argument. And, we've talked about it kind of a lot, right? But they bring in Brian Fleury that has been a Shanahan disciple. He's been with quite a few organizations. I kind of just looked it up to double check and make sure this wasn't some jabroni or whatever. I think it's going to be really status quo. I'm not saying he'll finish QB 13 again, but I think he's going to be well above 23. And mainly because I think if anything, the defense got a little worse, right? So they're probably going to be in more shootout-y type games, right? And the running game probably didn't get better. We might not like Kenneth Walker III very much, but in all honesty, I don't like Jadarian Price very much either. I mean, I legit think Charbonnet is the running back one when he comes back, but he's got to get healthy. So it's like, I just think that Darnold's going to have to throw the ball. And of all the things that they needed to do, I think that they improved their offensive. I think they may have found a replacement for the turd sandwich revolving door that was whatever Bradford. I can't think of his first name. I think it's Anthony Bradford or whatever, the guard. And if they replace that spot, they might have a top tier offensive line. And at that point, Sam Darnold has just got to not see ghosts to be better. And I mean, of course, we've known that he's been terrible for a long time, but obviously in the last two seasons, he's got more wins in his last two seasons than he did his first six or whatever, or however many years he was in the league before that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, part of that's the offensive schemes and the head coach and all that stuff. I just think he ends up better than 23, and he's still young enough that if he's my QB3, I'm all right with it.
Exactly. Here's the thing, Bob. I'm not going to sit here and you know how I am about players, right? I can be overly critical at times. Sam Darnold's one that I haven't really been overly critical of, right? I mean, I just think he is what he is, right? That season was magic. And as far as getting to 13 again, I'm like you. I think it's going to be a big ask, a tough ask, because number one, you're the Super Bowl champion, right? You're not sneaking up on anybody again this year. Everyone knows what to expect when they play Seattle now. You better bring, your big boy pants when you're playing Seattle. I know they've had a little bit of the loss on both sides of the ball, especially on defense, right? I mean, that's where they kind of got dinged more than anything. But like, I mean, you say 23, I'm with you. I mean, I'm not a big Sam Darnold cheerleader, but, like, I'm okay with what you said. He's young enough as a quarterback 3. I'm okay with it, right? Like, as long as he's my quarterback 3, I'm okay with it. And as far as outproducing ADP, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's 32 guys that start, right? So you can go ahead and look at the Las Vegas guys, right? You can look at Bryce Young. Like, you can go on and on. Like, there are some guys down there.
C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? I mean, we like Stroud a little bit, but you worry about his offensive line situation. His confidence might be in the gutter. Like, did he turn the other way? Look, I mean, you look at Cam Ward and some of these other players. We hope for a jump, but will there be a jump? I mean, Sam Darnold's been around the league. He's still on a good structured team. As a quarterback 3, I'm okay with it, as you said. And like, I'm expecting probably 18-ish, 19, somewhere in there. And look, even if that happens, like, you're still getting a guy that's doing better than expected. And, like, if you keep it in perspective, as you said, Bob, quarterback 3, fringe quarterback 2, keep it in perspective. Draft him where you're drafting him, and you're probably going to get a solid return on investment. It's just like, you know, when you put in a CD at the bank, right, and you put in like $1,000, yeah, you're not going to make $1 million like you might make on the stock market, but you might get, you know, a couple $100 by the end of the year, and you're like, okay, you know what, that ain't bad, you know, let me buy myself a TV or something. That's Sam Darnold. Like, I could see that kind of return on investment. And you said the age is on his side, and like it or not, he's a Super Bowl winner. I mean, that's going to keep him a little bit more relevant in the league longer. Even if it were somehow, some way to fall apart in Seattle and over the next couple of years, he's going to get an opportunity somewhere else. So I like the perspective of that, Bob. You know, and I like the fact you challenged me on some of this stuff because, you know, absolutely. You know how I get, like, so many players make me so upset I can just be like, oh, you know, I go on this big rampage about him. But, like, he isn't that bad, right? I just expect him not to be as good, but it's still solid. I'm okay with that. 19, 18. I think it's possible for Sam Darnold. Good, solid, decent quarterback 3. I just really wouldn't want to trust him much more beyond that, but still think he could do it. So I'm with you. Let's go over to the next player.
So I think this one is one you'll kind of agree with me more on, Cam Ward. I just think that he was so bad last year, and that team was so bad last year that he's either going to fall out of the league or he's going to get better. And he's QB 25 right now, which is, you know, only 7 spots behind him. And honestly, my last one's behind that number. So, but what I'm just hoping for is a little bit of improvement. What's going to be a successful season for the Tennessee Titans? You know, I think you might have picked 7 wins or whatever for them, right? So, like, let's just say that it's not even 7 wins. I think as long as they know Cam Ward is their QB, and as long as they know they have a head coach, and I think as long as they feel like they've got 2 to 4 other assets on their team, I think that's a successful year for the Tennessee Titans because they were so bad. You know what I mean? I know they have Jeffrey Simmons, so that's one of the 4 assets out of the way. Peter Skoronski is a very good guard or whatever on their offensive line, but that might be about it. You know what I mean? They don't know that Tate's good or not. You know what I mean? It's possible he's good, but I don't know that he's good. So this team has such little expectation still that I think as long as Cam Ward does – if he just moves into the Sam Darnold spot of 23 or 20 or 15, you know, like not 15, that's high, but I think that he should be a mid QB2 in my opinion, because I think Daboll let him run a little bit. So I'm thinking anywhere between 15 and 20. Right? Like, I think if he ends up in that space, then they should know that they have their QB that's going to lead this team, hopefully, out of this abysmal situation. And if that's the case, then, of course, his ADP is going to go up.
And you're right, Bob. You're absolutely right? Like, I was being, like, more optimistic with the Tennessee win total because, like, I'm like you. I think Cam Ward is going to play better. I like some of the stuff they've done this offseason, and it is a very soft division. Right, and you know how I feel about Indianapolis, right? I have a little less faith in Indianapolis than maybe people do. And you look at it, right? I mean, 22 last year, I get it. It was a rough year. You always hope for more. But you go to a dumpster fire situation like that, right? I mean, like, that was about as bottom of the barrel. I mean, if it was the only one that might have been worse is like Cleveland, right? To be honest, like, as far as like overall bottom of the barrel type situation. And, he was just in a bad spot. I mean, you look at it, though. I mean, fantasy points down the stretch, Bob. The last 4 games of the season, last 4 or 5 games of the season, 17, 29, 22, 33, right? Like, there were some games in there where he was looking very, very serviceable. And, we've seen a little bit more growth towards the end of the year with him. So we hope that continues to add on our faith in him, maybe outproducing the ADP. But I'm like you, like Brian Daboll, like, I hate the fact that, like, okay, we brought in the guy the Giants fired. Well, he's your offensive coordinator. He's not your head coach. Like, some guys are better coordinators than they are coaches, and I think Brian Daboll is one of them type guys. Like, I think he's just walk into any offensive room and be able to do a good job because that's just what he's good at, right? I mean, that's what he does. That's his bread and butter. Some guys can't run a team. Some guys can't run the whole structure, the whole organization, right? It's just too much for him. But he does know offense. And if you talk to Josh Allen, he'll tell you all about who helped him grow. And it was Brian Daboll. So Cam Ward, same thing. I'm like you. I hope we see a little bit more of the mobilization with him this year. They get him on the move a little bit. I don't want them to run him so much he's going to get hurt. But, it would be nice to see him slide him out of the pocket and be like, okay, Cam, keep your eyes downfield. If someone's there, yeah, throw it and get the chunk of yards. And if it isn't, run or throw it away, But use his mobility at least outside of the pocket. This is a soft division. But I'm like you. If you are a Cam Ward owner, right, if you have Cam Ward out there, you are hoping for that 16 to 17 finish, no worse than that. Like, you want to see the growth. Like, I mean, it's still a little disappointing, but at least it's a step in the right direction because as bad as Tennessee is, and you are 100% right, a good season for them is knowing they got a couple of foundation pieces in place. They have to have that because they don't have that right now. It doesn't really matter about a win total. But as you said, is Cam Ward the guy? Is Robert Saleh our head coach? Like, you're going to start seeing those dominoes fall into place. And if you're Tennessee, I would take another 4 or 5 win season knowing, though, that we have those pillars and we don't got to worry about it and things are going to continue to grow and get better. So I'm going to say 17-18 for Cam Ward at the worst. I'm hoping for 14-13, as far as a high-end realistic ceiling. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the guy has ability. He's got a hell of an arm on him, and he does have some mobility. So there is hope that he could maybe even outdo that. But I think of a high expectation, quarterback 13, quarterback 14, more of my lower-end acceptable expectations, 18-17, Bob. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer to 19 or 20, but even then, that's still an improvement. You know what I mean? And again, I think that there's just going to be some guys that age out ahead of him anyway. And as long as he shows that he can be a starting quarterback in this league, he's going to go. He'll be improved. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
For sure. And let's just say this, right? Like, another very good startup dart throw. Right? Like, I mean, like, I don't feel super comfortable trying to acquire him via trade. Like, we talked about, like, Jackson Dart. If I could get Cam Ward in a plus, I'm doing that. But, like, he's just someone, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, like, I don't want to trade straight draft capital for, right? Because it's not even so much an indictment on Cam Ward. It's an indictment on the Tennessee Titans, right, overall as an organization. But I will say, like, in those plus-type deals, like when I'm trading a quarterback, getting him back, and maybe some draft compensation. That's the kind of trade I like better. But I think a very good startup pick for sure, Bob. I mean, like, we talk about ceiling, finding players that are going to outperform, that have the ability to outperform. I think that's the kind of guy you're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, just to let you know how much I sniff my own farts, all 4 of these first 4 guys or whatever I just drafted in this startup draft. So all 4 of them. It's not like I'm not practicing what I preach.
That's what we love about you, Big Culture. So we'll see. Cam Ward, big dart throw, a little bit of a risk, but we know that there's a ceiling there, no doubt. Okay, Bob, who we got next on the docket tonight?
Now, this is probably the one you're going to like the least, and you've already hinted at it a little bit, but I cannot leave Daniel Jones off this list. I could have talked about Kyler Murray. number one, I don't like Kyler Murray, I guess, the player. He will outperform ADP, though. But it's just, I think the cost for Kyler Murray is going to be higher than what the cost for Daniel Jones will be. So let's just put it that way. And again, soft division. He was playing pretty well before he tore his Achilles. Now, the weapons have gotten considerably worse because TJ Jacketholder goes to Pittsburgh. And at that point, you know, we're not trusting. We here don't really trust the Alec Pierce improvement, but the Indianapolis Colts sure believe in it, right? And I mean, they've told Alec Pierce that he's going to be running routes other than just bombs. So if that's the case, then if he matures into a wide receiver one, which we haven't seen yet, you know, and again, if this team bomb craters out, let's just say they get a legitimate wide receiver in next year's draft in the second round, because they can't do that in the first round. So that's where Daniel Jones almost has to work out. So, and he's at QB 27. So I was kind of like looking at it, you know, just to argue, you know, like he's only had 3 years where he was under QB 27 anyway. It's such a low bar, right? So it's like, I'm not saying that he's going to set the world on fire. I'm not saying that I want to trust him really is even my QB3, because QB3 is pretty valuable in a Superflex league. I need to have that guy play. And he's coming off of Achilles injury, but man, it's a solid dart throw that if the guy pans out, of course I live in Indiana, so I could probably find somebody to buy him in one of my leagues. But I'm also not opposed to, hey, you know, he really looked good in the system last year until he tore his Achilles. Now, mind you, the situation's completely changed, but all I'm hinging it on really is kind of like what I talked about with Cam Ward. He's so far down that he almost has to go up. I mean, either that or he's out of the league. So it's just a good dice roll.
Right, and again, Bob, I mean, like, when you're talking about these low-end players, like, you're not going to hear no qualm out of me. Like, I mean, I just don't expect the Colts to have a good year. You know how I feel about that. But, you know, I think that just the fact the injury that he had, the prices come back down. Like, you remember when he went on that little bit of a magical spell there? Like, people were starting to get first for him again, and it was like, okay, maybe that's just too much to pay for Daniel Jones. But now with the injury, right, I've talked about him a lot on this network. He's a hot and cold player. Like, if he gets cold this year, maybe you could buy him for super peanuts, right? And then he'll get hot again. And that's the kind of players that really, especially if I'm not a contending team, that I don't mind doing business with, because, you know, I get a Daniel Jones for this, and then I can sell him for that. You know, and, like, that happens a lot. I do that a lot on rosters. It's playing the value market. It's just knowing that some people can't let go of the fact that, like, they hope that he's going to be the guy and you could have him as a stable guy on your roster. Like, no, you can't look at all the players like that on your roster that way. Daniel Jones is one of them guys. Like, he has enough talent to ooh and awe you every once in a while. He can show you why he was a first-round pick, you know, and then he'll just completely bomb crater out sometimes. But whenever he's got it going, the prices go up. So, like you said, either you're going to outproduce that or you're probably going to be out of the league. So you ain't going to hear no complaints about lower values that you see in your eyes. Like, that's always been my biggest complaint about players from a dynasty standpoint. You know this. Like, we can go on and on about certain guys. Like, they just go for too much. And when the price comes way down, I don't knock or rag on them as much, because then it's like, okay, well, maybe the price will go back up and then you could sell them on later. Like, and that's exactly what will happen. If Daniel Jones comes out even next year and plays well and the prices go up, I'll say sell, 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 because now's the time, right? That's how you do business in dynasty leagues. So I ain't going to give you too rough of an option on that one, Bob. But, you know, I have an honorable mention for you.
Well, I got a couple, but go ahead.
I just want to see what your thoughts are on this. And I'm not like a big believer in this, just because it's like, for a price of a pack of bubble gum, I think it's worth at least maybe throwing a dart in later in startup drafts, or just getting a throw in a trade. And that's Kirk Cousins, right, with the Vegas Raiders. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be a dominator, but he did have his best season with Kubiak, who's now the head coach, right? And if he does come out and at least give you some serviceable games, and let's just say by some miracle he wins the Raiders 7-8 games and they're able to keep Mendoza on the bench, that's a pretty darn good return for Kirk Cousins, getting him in like the 23rd round or wherever you're getting him. I mean, I just think that that's another good piece of business for a guy that's shown us that he could play in the past. But let's just say I get him, right? And then you could sell him off maybe for a late second or 2/3 or something, right? Like, you could make moves like that. So just for rebuilders out there that have roster space, like Daniel Jones, like, hey, maybe I don't believe in him as much, but Bob's argument made sense as far as the value. I know Bob isn't a big Vegas guy, but the argument makes sense because of the value, right? Like, if you have roster space, add these guys, and then you could trade them on for something, Bob. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, my only thing, and you're not wrong. Everything you said is absolutely correct, and I don't disagree with you. I think I'm just so out on these scenarios where it seems like I got to go get 2 QBs. You know what I mean? Like, with the Raiders and the Falcons, like it's like to even have the tradable asset, I got to go draft 2 guys. You know what I mean? Like, because, Kirk Cousins is doing really well, but everybody and their mom knows it's going to be Mendoza eventually. So at that point, I got to either trade both players, try to acquire both players or trade them both off, or, and your scenario of getting a second or something, you might be really freaking lucky to get a second, because anybody that's getting Kirk Cousins, they're like, man, I know this dude's a ticking time bomb. Whether it's production wise or not, they just know that Fernando Mendoza is going to be the guy eventually. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. If you could get anything for Kirk Cousins after drafting him in the 23rd round of your draft, then sure, that's a win and a half. I'm going to bring up 2 guys that I think are going to improve, but they're much higher on the scale, and I generally don't ever talk about expensive guys. But the Caleb Williams, I think, is going to get better, and I do believe that Justin Herbert's going to put up a much bigger year than what he has in the past. I think that's 2 guys. And then my very last guy that as soon as he signs a contract, his ADP is going to go through the roof, and that's Mac Jones.
That's the dynasty hope, right? I mean, you and I are on the same page with that. But hey, the reason I bring up Kirk Cousins is because look at Jacoby Brissett, right? I mean, like these guys have played in the league. I think when I'm looking at these late round dart throw quarterbacks, Bob, is have they played in the league? Have they shown anything in the league? Because, like, hey, they've shown us they can at least, the speed of the game ain't too much for them, right? Yes, they're not Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. I understand that. But, like, they at least can step in and they know the systems. They know offenses. They're good leaders. And they know the speed of the game, so.
How many teams have different starting quarterbacks next year than they have this year?
Ooh. Boy, oh boy. I'm going to say probably 5 right now at least. Right.
So I'm going to say at least Vegas, because you know that they're going to start with Cousins and then probably go to Mendoza, right? And then the Jets, they cannot they cannot have Geno Smith start next year. I don't care how good they do this year. Pittsburgh, right?
Miami.
Well, I don't know about Miami, but I'll just go ahead and oblige your comment.
The Browns.
It's entirely possible. The Browns.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Arizona,
yeah.
It's a lot. It really is. And at that point, I mean, could Jalen Hurts be gone from Pittsburgh or from Philadelphia?
Anything's possible. I mean, that's just it. Anything's possible anytime, and it can happen quick. It could happen quick.
Baker still hasn't signed a contract, and apparently they are far off on numbers. I mean, who knows, right? That could be another one. Carolina. Is Bryce Young going to be the corner? I mean, we're talking. I mean, if we add in 2 more names, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 teams. That's one from every division, kinda ish. You know what I mean? Like, that's nuts, dude. The eight quarterbacks switching job. I mean, like, I know this draft is supposed to be QB heavy, but that there's not 8 starting quarterbacks coming out.
Yep, there's never enough, Bob. There's never enough. We know about that. But listen, We appreciate it, Big Culture Bob. You're able to get this episode in before your vacation. I know the Dynasty DNA fans appreciate that. All the network guys appreciate that. We thank you. We hope you enjoy your vacation. If you guys are listening and enjoying the content on Spotify, Apple Pod, Stitcher, Amazon, any of the big podcasting platforms, and you haven't yet, please follow and 5-star the show. Greatly helps. We so appreciate it. You want to check out Dynasty DNA on YouTube, subscribe to us over on YouTube. We'd love to have you. Make sure to check out Dynasty DNA's Facebook and TikTok page. Follow us on X at Dynasty DNA _. Listen, I know I speak for Big Culture Bob and all the quarterbacks that he's hoping outperform ADP when I say we hope you guys have a great start of your week ahead of you. We'll see you all on the next episode of The Culture Shock.